continuation from the previous. So another psychological principle is known as closure. So whenever we look at a complex arrangement of elements, we tend to look for a single recognizable pattern. And if there really isn't one, we might see one where there isn't. For example, on the right, there are 4 lines, red lines. I see a square. There's no square. There's 4 red lines. And so it goes back to the gestalt of the whole. We want to find wholes. We want to find forms. We want to find shapes as the big picture before we began to look at the details. And so when you ask most people, they would see a square, even though there is no square. We start to fill in missing information to make for that single recognizable pattern if we can't find one. There's a phenomenon, it's called pareidolia, Greek word, and essentially our brains see faces, human faces, and sometimes animal faces, but primarily human because we are human, where they don't exist. And there's all kinds of wonderful internet conspiracy theories about Martians based on faces that people would see in the photos that we used to take. Of course, we've now gone to Mars, and if there are Martians, they are bacteria and microbes or long gone. And look at the clouds, we can see bunnies and faces of interesting forms and shapes. And that is part of this psychology. Proximity. Things that are closer to one another are perceived to be more related than things that are spaced farther apart. Now, we previously talked about how color groups objects, in this case circles. But when we look at this arrangement, we see 3 separate arrangements in which this row of black circles and this row of red circles are connected, are more related than this row of red circles is to this row of red circles because of proximity. Basically, it's the same as if we're looking down on a group of people and these dots of people are facing these dots of people and they're connected to each other. And that this is another group and this is another group and perhaps they're about to dance or something, right? Because we tend to pair people off or cordon them off for dances. And in a larger composition, the color still communicates information because of the similarity between them. So for instance, I saw dance partners. The red might be the female and the black might be the male. And that's one way of the color in addition or providing additional information beyond the proximity. So as you're starting to see, this can get really complex. And it does. And so we want to, in the beginning, just try to work with it on a big picture basis, on a whole basis, and then start to work our way down. In the beginning, work with a few elements rather than all the elements and all the principles at once. And for some reason, this is not playing because I'm not in the animation. Okay, so I was going to see if I could get it to move, but it's not letting me move it while I'm recording this. Essentially what happens is this group of circles rotates counterclockwise, and this rotates clockwise. And so at first you see a group of 6 circles, but when they go into motion and they move apart, you then see 2 different groups of 3 circles. So as this group moves out this way, these 3 move counterclockwise and these 3 move clockwise. They then become separate. And that has to do with them moving separately. And that is called synchrony, common fate, how they move together. Often what we design doesn't necessarily move. Some things do. But knowing that that's how things work could be an example of something that we use when we're working with moving parts of design, something like a louver, or I'm just trying to think of some other examples. And of course I'm not, because I'm recording this. And so, that works. And so that's what that means. And then this one just shows them moving together as a group. And so they would still be a group, and we would see them as 6 circles. Symmetry. The idea when we perceive objects that we see them as symmetrical has to do with the fact that our bodies and our faces are symmetrical. So in this case, we can see that set of brackets, that set of brackets, and that set of brackets because of the symmetry. But if the 2 on the ends were gone, we would see these, same as the vase. This is identical to the opening image of the black vase and the white faces. We would then see these as symmetrical and these as symmetrical. So even though these are closer to each other, the fact that symmetry is a stronger view for our brains shows that it overrides proximity. When they're all identical like this as a whole overrides this proximity. And I know this is kind of complicated at first and hard to always grasp. And this is the best advice I can give you for learning this and understanding this, because I spent years studying it myself. It just comes to me naturally now, because the more you practice, what you're doing is your consciousness of your brain has a conscious element that takes in information. It's a sensory input information. And it puts it into your unconscious brain, where it then decides what to do with that information. And the conscious brain can only handle about 50 bits of information per second. It's very slow. And it's that way because you don't want to overwhelm or bombard your unconscious brain with too much information, because it's also reading information from your ears, your eyes, all the cells in your body. And it can process roughly 11 billion bits of information per second, which is really impressive. But it takes the information that comes in from your conscious brain, and it has to figure out what to do with it. And then it has to start to build neural pathways in your brain to store that information. And so in the beginning of learning, it's very challenging and very difficult for new concepts to stick. You have to practice them. And when I was an architecture student in school, we were always told, look at things, go out in the world and look at things and start to see them in terms of what they are, in design terms, not in terms of, oh, that's brick, but start to look at the pattern of the brick. I've got a brick wall inside my house for the fireplace, and I'm looking at it. And it's this series of rows of bricks. And when I start to look at it in terms of design, and I start to break it down and start to go, okay, how is this unified? And I start to analyze it and evaluate it. And you could create a cheat sheet with all the principles and elements of design. And you take that with you in your notebook. And when you go somewhere and you're looking at a building, you're in somebody's house, you're at a party, and it's, it's nobody you want to talk to, or it's something, you're just tired. Start looking around the house and start looking how is color used in the design of this space? How is the space unified? How is the design of this building that I'm in? How is it balanced? And that will really help you understand by looking at existing structures. Not to say that everything out there is well designed. You then become, and we're actually going to talk about art criticism, you then become a critic in the sense that you can start to analyze other people's designs as whether or not they're good design or not good design. And that's valuable to your own education and learning as a designer. Parallelism. Elements that are parallel appear more related than elements that are not parallel. Example to the right. Those 3 parallel lines in your mind are going to appear related. And the other lines, even though they're still lines, they're all the same lines, won't appear related. It has to do with the fact that it's also a point is a line, a point or a line is a point in motion. And so those points are all moving in the same direction, and it goes back to what we previously talked about with synchrony, that they all share the same fate. They're all going in the same direction. So your eye is following that line in that direction. There's something called leading lines. When we talk about lines in design, we're not always talking about an actual line. Sometimes we're talking about one object that connects to another object visually with nothing in between. From one point to another is still a line, even though there's a gap between them. And that's exactly what's going on here. Okay, we're going to stop this video here and continue in the next.